Now we're here for the most exciting part of it all. But before we get started, I want us to pray, and then I want to tell you something funny. I'm not a storyteller, and I'm not funny. I do know that, but something funny did happen to me, and even now, when I think about it, it's embarrassing, but it's hilarious. So we'll get started, and we'll just pray. Dear Father, thank you for this opportunity, Lord, to be with these ladies. Thank you, Lord, for what you've given us, this opportunity to train and to encourage these women to follow their heart according to your will. And Lord, I just ask you to please bless them. Bless each and every one. You know what's going on in their lives. You know their struggles. You know their desires, their dreams. Lord, please, when this is all over, in years to come, I want you to just shine forth in them and just grow them and let their work just praise your name, Lord. That's our goal. Please be with me today. Give me the words to say, and let it be for your glory and your honor, Lord, in Christ's name. Amen. Mm-hmm. So, when we were going over the writing and editing and all that stuff, I thought, I need to start out with something fun. This is kind of dry. So, when I was in college, I was a business major, and I had an economics teacher. His name was Dr. Stolte. He had been a dean. He was very knowledgeable, educated. Well, in this class, I can't remember what economics class it was. He told us, he said, I want you to write a paper. I want you to write on anything you want. So I thought, oh, it's not going to be that hard. So I turned in my paper and gave it back, and he was very gracious. He gave me a B, and then he wrote this big long thing. And I thought, what is this? I didn't even write anything about economics. It was another paper for another class that I had turned in thinking, oh, he said I could write about anything.
Oh my gosh.
And so for me, that was very embarrassing. But at the same time, I can't imagine. At my age now, I cannot imagine what he thought when he started reading that paper. But
he should have been more clear.
Yes. Yeah, he said write about it. Don't be write about anything. I'm more of a literal one-track. That's the way I am. But anyway, he later became a really good encourager. Encouraging me to try different things. And he was a good teacher, so he was very gracious. But today, this topic we're talking about today, you know it. Every one of you have been to high school, so nothing is new. The goal of what I want to do is just to encourage you to put into practice the things you already know, and to just go one step further in your writing. And just a few things up front.
Come this way just a little bit so that the video can get the screen.
How am I going to get this thing?
I just want to make sure that the video.
Make sure my head's on.
Your head's just fine.
On the other side.
Your hair looks great.
No, just come. If you just move the podium a little bit more this way.
And just talk loud.
There you go.
This
That's
way?
good. Yeah.
Okay, talk loud. I'm so far away from. So sometimes whenever you're writing a paper, this is before we even kind of get started. Somebody had asked me, I think it was Lori, that when she was reading the book, she said, I don't know if this is me because they're talking about the calling to write. She said, I don't know if I have the calling to write. So I want to stop right there. You may not be called to write a book, but God has given you experiences in your life that no one else has. And if you can put it on paper, then someone will be able to have it forever until Jesus comes. So if you're going to have it on paper, do it the best you possibly can. And because it will be profitable. Even if you don't feel like you've got this calling on your life. I just want to make that very clear. So each of us has something to say, and we can put it on paper. Also, whenever you're writing, this is hard work. It's not journaling. It is different. I know you already know this. It's not journaling. Writing is structured. It's very structured because you have something to say and you want to get it done correctly. So the hard work, I was telling Michelle this, the hard work is up front. It's all up front. It's you struggling at that desk. Your family does not understand what you're doing. They don't. You are investing the time up front before there's any benefit. So if you invest that hard work up front, once it's published, once it's finished, it will bless people for decades. It will. So think about that. Your work will be a blessing forever. So when you feel like you just want to throw it out the window or scream, go ahead and scream and then get back to work and finish it. Okay? So today I'm going to try. I wish I was better at this, but today on our writing refresher class, the first question we ask ourselves is, why do we write? What do you write? Why does anybody write? I found an interesting article by this lady, her name's Pilar Arsenic, on Ordinary Servant. She summed up, of all the articles that I looked at, she summed them up the best. The first one is, figured out that information.
I love it.
Okay, we are called. So we're going back to that call. God created us purposefully and endowed us with gifts to glorify Him. He gave us the gifts that we have. And in America, most people have the privilege of knowing how to read and write. That is a gift. That truly is a blessing. In Romans 11:29, I thought this was interesting. God tells us that His call and His gifts can never be withdrawn. He's given to us, and He's not going to take them away. He's given them for us to use for Him. To me, that's encouraging. Also, we write because our writing is an act of service. Since God gave us our desire and our gift to write, He wants us to bless the people around us and to bless our generation. So He's given us a work to do. The third thing is we write because we desire to glorify Jesus Christ. Our words, whether you speak them or you write them, they have power. So I'm going to write that, just write, my words have power. It's power to bless or it's power to curse. It's your choice. It's my choice. Proverbs 18:21 tells us that the tongue can bring life or death. You have to decide the way you're going to use it. The weight of this responsibility can be overwhelming, but we have the Holy Spirit as our helper to give us wisdom in how to use our words and what words to use. So He's always there and He'll guide us. Always ask for His direction because, again, we are His ambassadors to our family, our friends, our state, our generation. He's given that to us. And this is in keeping with, Haley, I need a tissue. With that in mind, when we do His calling that He's given, just have a napkin, Michelle's good. We are obeying the Great Commission in Matthew. Just that tissue. So when you do what He tells you to do with your gifts, you're being obedient to the Great Commission. In your way, you're not supposed to be Pastor Dean and preach. God's given him that. You're supposed to do what He's told you to do. And when you fulfill it, you are fulfilling the Great Commission, which is to evangelize and to disciple. Those two things. I mean, there's probably other reasons, but to me, these three kind of summed it up for a Christian writer. I want to focus a little bit on becoming a missional writer, a writer on mission. And she went over that in the book a lot, about being a writer on mission, having a purpose to your writing. Not just to make a book, but a purpose for your writing. In Luke 6:45, a good man out of the good treasure of his heart bringeth forth that which is good, for of the abundance of the heart his mouth speaketh. Couldn't we paraphrase the same thing to say, out of the overflow the pen writes? What God's put in your heart, you can write it out because He's given it to you out of the overflow. Let me show you this. This was from the book. It says, unless we write from an overflow of our relationship with Jesus Christ, our words are empty and have little eternal value. To write meaningful books, articles, poems, or other manuscripts, we must have something of value to share. And for us as Christian writers, we know that the total value, the true value, is Jesus Christ and God's Word. So, what I want you to do is to write from the overflow. So when God fills us up, I love this example. When God fills us up, we pour out to a person, a friend, a family member. And then if we encourage them, they will overflow to even more people. So it's almost like a multiplication factor. So the thing is to share out of the overflow. When you are filled to the brim with Him and you reflect His light and love to those around us, you can be for the entire world, share to the entire world. So you may think, wow, that's a big tall order. How do I go about doing that? So the thing is, how do you nurture yourself, your relationship with the Lord? What pieces need to be worked on, you need to grow in order to have an overflow? I don't know where that's at. I don't know where that's at. We'll have to fill that part out. So the first thing we need to do is have Bible study and quiet time. Michelle's already covered this many, many times over, so you know this. For Writers on Mission, we must dig deeper to study, understand, and internalize the Word of God in a way that we can let it overflow into the lives of others through our writing. And last time Michelle did a plethora of different study methods. I would encourage you to practice different ones to find which one's the best for you. That'll help you. The next thing is prayer. Prayer is important to nurturing our relationship with the Lord. These God conversations are important. He wants us to pour our hearts out to Him and then listen to what He has to say. So have a conversation with Him, but then listen to what He says. It's very important. I don't know if some of you have experienced this, but you remember whenever you're in a quiet time and you've read and it's silent in the house and you just pour out your heart to the Lord. It's the ugly, it's the good, it's the scared, it's all of it. You just pour it out to Him. And then there's a calm, there's a peace. Sometimes He'll give us instruction. You'll just know this is what I'm supposed to do. And then another time, it'll be just a calm. He's not giving us the answer. He's not giving us direction. He just wants us to trust Him and that He'll take care of it in the time that He sees fit. You know that time, that special time that He gives us. And it's energizing. It reaffirms our faith when that happens. And He just encourages us. And then we just want to do something for Him. I always thought that time during prayer is so precious. And it increases your faith with Him, your relationship with Him. In our relationships, this is another facet of how to grow and nurture your relationship so that you can overflow and have something to write from the overflow. So far we've been talking about our relationships with the Father, with the Lord. Now we're going to talk about a little bit about our relationships with our family and friends around us. They are vital too. You have to ask yourself, and this would be more probably if I was out talking to young people, but who do you hang around with? Who do you go to if there's a problem? Who do you share that with? Or what do you share that with? It seems now, when we have a problem, we share it, not with a confidant, but we put it on Facebook, we put it on whatever. And I'm not on Facebook, but I'm sure the feedback, there's got to be something very appealing about the feedback from different people, which may or may not be very good. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage you to have a person or two that you trust, that if there's a problem, that you go to those people to get the right kind of advice. Search out those kind of people. The point is to seek out spiritually healthy relationships. Find one person who will keep you accountable to your spiritual and writing goals. So you'd have to tell that person your goals for them to keep you accountable. The next facet is worship. Romans 12:1 tells us, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. You're very familiar with this scripture. But when you hear the word worship, a lot of times you don't think about sacrifice. So what's the connection? But Paul told us that our spiritual act of worship is to sacrifice our bodies and what we do with them, everything, our dreams, our goals, everything. This working definition might help. Sacrifice, as a spiritual act of worship, is submitting everything, all of your wishes, needs, desires, hopes, dreams, to come under the blood of Jesus. As you filter the things of the world into your life, it becomes an act of worship before God as you follow His guidance to respond to the world. And remember, I don't know those of you that remember, that was part of that, I think it was when we studied Daniel by Beth Moore. I don't know who all went through that. She had one segment that talked about, I think she went to an altar, or she had an altar in her home, and she just gave herself to Him. She said, I'm not much, but I will give you everything that I am. And we have to do that too. We have to come to the point that we just give Him everything about us. And these pieces, if you will work on them in conjunction, and y'all know this, they will grow you. They'll grow your relationship with the Lord. And then you will have something really worthwhile to write about. And then that is the writing that will bless and help other people. So I encourage you to do that. Oh, sorry, worldview. Before we knew Christ, we had no basis of how to connect the dots in the world. There were dots, but there was no real connection of how they came together to make sense. But when Christ comes into our life, He makes sense of all the dots. Once we realize that God created the whole world, everything then has a purpose. You see the purpose. We look at the whole world through different eyes. We have God inside us, and we view everything through His eyes. Our worldview changes. Colors are brighter. I love these examples used. Colors are brighter. Relationships are deeper. Children are more precious. Friendships are closer. We begin to see the world as God sees it, something to be treasured and sought after. As we regard the world through God's eyes, we should filter everything we write through His love. So when you think you just want to be snarky, just back up a second and say, how is this going to come across to somebody reading this? You should filter it through His love. I'm not saying you shouldn't tell people the truth, but not snarky, if that makes sense. A Christian writer recognizes that God is at work all around. And His work, He's at work all around. That knowledge should humble us when we realize that we have a part in writing about His work so other people can understand. So our worldview will reflect what we write. So all these pieces that we talked about, if you work on them, they will help you to grow. That's definitely a must. Now, the writing process, the actual mechanics. So we've talked about some of the reasons why we write. Now we're going to shift into some of the mechanics. There is, y'all remember in high school, the teacher saying, there's a process to writing. There's a writing process. And once you do it, after a while, it becomes, you don't even realize you're doing it. So there's 5 components. There's pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, and publishing. This process is going to take time, lots of time. I think when we worked on our first piece with Craving More, you think, oh, we're just gonna write this. It turned out to be hours and hours and hours of time. But whenever you're finished, again, it's a finished product that you can be proud of. Now, I found some research that might be interesting to you concerning this time breakdown, to just give you a real view, realistic, so you know what you're walking into. It would seem, let me show you this graph I found.
I love this so much. Can't wait.
It would seem that the largest amount of time is spent staring blankly and or shouting at your computer.
Amen.
So I thought this was hilarious. Time spent deciding on comma placement. That's funny. So
This is so true.
Is
I
there
really love the yellow. Time spent procrastinating by cleaning house.
I was gonna say, there's gotta be a cleaning.
My house is
supply
never
in
cleaner than when I'm writing a book. Never cleaner.
so hopefully this will help you be a little bit more productive. So
To make you, just to keep you in that headspace of this is normal.
this is
This is
normal.
normal.
I'm not just some whatever. So pre-writing. This is the stage. This is the stage where you should be in your fuzzy pants, your yoga pants, with your cup of coffee, your tea, whatever, in a nice warm chair. This is where you're going to ask God for His direction. You're just going to pour out your thoughts to Him and ask Him, what should I do? Have your pen and paper ready, because then is where the ideas are going to start. The ideas are going to start flowing. So the first thing is brainstorming. Whenever I was in high school, I had a teacher. She was flaky, but I loved her to death. She told us about brainstorming. She impressed on us so much. And she had a big board, and she put up, whenever you're brainstorming, it's like you're just taking sticky notes and you're just putting them on the wall. And that's brainstorm. I love brainstorming. I love having meetings where we just we just brainstorm. What can we do? So brainstorming is great. What is God nudging you to write about? You just write it. Maybe you're a visual. You have to have something on the wall. Or maybe you're just a paper. Or maybe you use some kind of diagram. But get your ideas down. No matter how goofy, just write it down. Write them all. Because it could be more than one project that comes out. So just write it all down. List everything. Once you've kind of emptied all of your idea bank, then start categorizing. Look at them. Which things kind of go together, and just organize them. Put them here, change their color, just have them where they're grouped together. And like I said, you may see different projects, not just idea about one thing. It could be, so you'll just have to categorize it and see what stands out. Determine the goal of your writing piece. So once you've decided, this is really strong, I have all these ideas right here on this particular topic, then write down what would be my goal with this idea. What is my goal? That will determine, because we're going to be talking, I'm going to be using essays in this class, but of course there's a lot more than essays, but that's like the foundation, so that's all we're talking about. So if you have a bunch of ideas, then, and you know the goal of what you want to accomplish, that will determine what kind of essay you use and what you need to answer. So it all starts with the brainstorming. And it'll help, that will help you narrow what you're going to weed out. It'll help it narrow it down. Focus. But keep the other stuff. Don't throw it away in the trash can. Put it in a
Fodder file.
fodder file. F-O-D-D-E-R, a fodder file.
Or just get you a little.
Michelle has a
I have
little book.
What I keep all my
Idea book.
ideas in.
It's called fodder file. You can have a little file. Don't throw anything away. Just throw it in that file, because you never know.
You'll come back to it.
Into 2 years, you'll be looking and go, wow. So keep that. That's called a fodder file. The next thing is researching and taking notes. So then you start reading notes carefully, text carefully, taking the notes that would relate to what it is you want to accomplish. Your goal. It always goes back to your goal. We'll give that another name in just a minute. Then you have to take citations. The information that I got from here was all from other people. The internet, wow. That has been a game changer. Hasn't it been a game changer from when me and you did research papers in high school? It's so amazingly different. So cite, where you get the information from. You can use, I think Michelle is a fan of the APA. You're APA, right?
I hate citations. I hate them, I hate them, I hate them, I hate them, I hate them so much.
But you use APA, no?
But
You use APA?
Yeah, normally, but the gloriously wonderful, beautiful internet, there are websites now where all you have to do is
Are
just
you
type in all the
kidding me?
information and it makes a citation for you, because I hate citations. I always gotta
I like
thumbs
citations.
down for my teacher in citations.
Yeah, I love citations.
But there are webs, like if it's something that's difficult, once you learn the format, it's not so bad, but there are websites now that will do it for you. All you have to do is plug in the needed information and then it will set it up for you. Or if you're using Logos, they cite it.
So citations is just giving other people credit for what the work they've already done. You don't know that. You can have, the two main ones are the MLA and the APA. I used MLA in high school and college, that's why we used MLA. So that's how sometimes I would tell Michelle and she's like, what? We have different. So just pick one and be consistent.
I think it also depends on what you're writing.
True.
Like if it's more of an academic, if it's more academic, then I think there's a certain way to cite for those types of things. I don't know, it's something, if you wanna do more digging into that, there's like the, it's like a writing handbook, something along those lines. I'll have to find out what it is, but it gives you all of the like nitty gritty breakdown of writing. Like Christian writing is also different than your standard like fiction, nonfiction writing. It's its own entity. So there is a style handbook.
Style handbook.
And we are on that, so don't jump out and buy anything just yet, because that's my goal in the next week is to find the one sitting down with Julie, and we're gonna have one for you at the next class.
Will you put that on like a sticky note it's a Christian writer's style handbook, something like that, and I'll find it.
I sure will.
So whatever method you use, just pick it with it, stay with it, and be consistent. That's the key. And decide it, because everybody knows they're trying to decide it. So that's really important that you put that on your notes. When you take your notes, that you put your citation on it. Now, creating an outline. I love outlines. An outline, we're going to go a little bit further, we're going to do more detail, but create your outline. Once you've got your main goal, your main thought, you've done your research, now you want to start creating an outline of what it is you want to do. We'll go into that a little bit more detail a little bit later, but one thing I'll leave you with right now, the more detailed you have it, the easier it's going to be when you go to write.
I was gonna ask you, are you a topical outliner, or are you a sentence writer?
I'm not a sentence, I'm a topical.
Okay.
Personally. The people that write sentences, man, their work's almost all done by the time they get finished with their outline.
But listen, I'm the kind of person, I'll write an outline, and if I don't give enough detail, and I go back, I'm like, I don't have a clue what I was trying to say.
See, I have freshmen in high school, 2 of them, and that is our hard thing that we're doing right now, is writing. And if I've got it, and I'm not a writer, so I'm doing lots of research to push them, because I'll tell you my little story. In high school, I was in honors classes because I was pre-AP. That's how old I am. So, but I had a teacher who was not, honestly, a very good teacher, because each class she would find the best writer, and she graded everybody off of that one.
Oh, wow.
It was awful, because guess who got all the red on their papers? Because I'm a math person. I'm not a writer. I did a good job, but I wasn't an A+ writer, but at least give me credit for something, not base it on how somebody else did. So I didn't have a very good background. So I'm doing a lot of research to help my kids to be better writers. And that's what I keep trying to tell them. They want the easy way out. Quit, and I told them, I was like, if y'all don't stop doing it, I'm just going to take the topical option away and make you do the sentence, because most of your work's already done for you if you'll just go ahead and write the sentence.
I guess just giving yourself enough information that if you walk away because you will walk away for periods of, because life happens.
Yes.
Right.
Like you will walk away for periods of time, and when you sit back down to dig into your outline, you need to know,
What was I talking about?
this is where I was going with this,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I've done it so many times where I've made a note or something, and I'm a Gilmore Girls fan, and like the new one or in the old one, she makes all these notes when they spend time away from each other, and they're like random. She's like, I don't know what this means. So that's kind of how it can feel if you're not giving yourself enough information. Where if it's just vague,
You don't have to do the adjectives
No.
and that kind of
detail,
detail, but you need enough.
you need a
Yes.
you need enough.
Besides
where you
just-
say,
Here's Hayden, truck.
Okay,
No.
like, let's do it. Just giving yourself enough detail to say, okay, when I sit back
Right.
down with this, I'm gonna know, okay,
He's my top.
this is what I was referring to. This is the direction that I was headed in. Especially because you can go in 800 different directions off of one topic. So
And
yeah,
then-
give yourself enough detail.
Like I like to put the Bible verse with my,
Yes.
so that I can always reference back to what specific Bible verse I had in mind for my thought.
And it can
That's a
help
good
more
idea.
to go back as well.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's a great idea. Great idea.
If you're doing an essay, one thought, if you're doing an essay, since I'm going to be talking about essays here, you can do the 5-paragraph essay or 5-paragraph outline, which is each topic or each
Idea.
idea is a 1, a 2, a 3, and then you can build. So everybody
Those were my
knows on your computer, you can just put this, that's the magic of, you can just do it, it'll just do it for you, push the button. So, but just pick which one you want. And there's different kinds. There's, I'm gonna tell that later, I'll just say that. There are different kinds, you just pick which ones you're most familiar with. And it's easy for you. That's the whole goal. An outline is gonna be your friend through the whole process. The next step in the writing process is drafting. This is the step where you will write your story, or you'll start writing your information, your article, your essay, whatever it may be. One piece of advice I found was not to edit yourself as you go. Just write it. Your job is to just write. Don't edit yourself. I'm horrible at that. I'm like, spend 15, 20 minutes on one paragraph and go back, like, just stop. Just write it. Just write it.
There's a podcast that I like to listen to. She's very funny. She's a little crass, but she's funny. But she says that she sets a timer for herself for 1 hour. She blocks a 1 hour or however long you have, setting the timer for yourself. And all you can do is put words on the page. You can't go back and read it. You can't touch it in any form other than to just get words on paper. That's it. There's no, you can't allow yourself to go back and read, but she just sets that timer, and once the timer goes off, she walks away. She walks away from it entirely. So it's just words on a page, and you don't edit or mess with it.
Right.
It's hard. It'll take some practice, but that's a great idea.
So the main thing is just write it. Write it in its time. Just write. Just write. Experiment with your style. Maybe use some flowery words or something you wouldn't normally use. Experiment with your style, new words, descriptions. But focus on the goal. Don't go in the ditch. Stay with your outline. Have your outline right here with you, and then write. And then you think, okay, don't go.
I take the off ramp and I.
We call that the rabbit hole. Jeremy takes rabbit holes all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, get out of the rabbit hole and come back over here.
And you left your way across the state line, haven't you?
Well, I think the beauty of just getting your words on paper is when you go back and you read. I've done this where I'll go back and read, and I'm like, where did that even come from? So it's just like I just copy, cut, paste, and move it somewhere else because I don't want to lose anything I've written, but I'll just remove it from the document altogether. But I think one of the beautiful things of just drafting and just writing your words is when you go back and you read what you've written, if you are constantly thinking about, should a comma go here? Is this sentence too long? then you're missing the purpose of what's coming from like the overflow and from your heart, and then it becomes more it stops being from the heart and stops being something that you're just constantly analyzing and overthinking, because when we overthink it, it will reflect in your work. It will reflect in your writing. So I think your writing, when you put initial words on paper, it's from here. It's always from here. So then you can go back with this part, because for me, like when you are editing work, it's with a different part of your brain. Like writing is creative. It's artistic. It's a different part of your brain than, like, I equate editing to math. Like, you're doing a different work. It's just something completely different. So I think when you're drafting, it's all from here. And then you can switch gears towards other things.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. So focus on the goal of your work. Keep your audience in your mind's eye, and just get it done. Just get it done.
Just get
Just
it done.
get it done.
Oh, okay. Just do it.
Do y'all want to take a break now, or do you want to wait a few minutes? We are going to take a break before editing. I'm just saying. Are y'all ready to take a break, or do you want to chill? Go for a little bit more?
How many more
Just
slides?
do revising. Because you just have
No, I'll
revising.
slide.
You just got revising before editing, right?
We'll just do revising. We'll do revising. So the third process, or the third step, is revising. Don't you love this guy? I was trying to figure out what that was. I was like,
I feel him. I get it.
yeah, look how much work, and then man.
This is good. This is big.
So
That's just sixth final revision.
Been there.
oh goodness. So the first step in revising is review. Review. Read your work. Read your work. I put it at least 3 times. That may be extreme, depending on how long it is. But read over your work first to make sure you, in your mind, have accomplished your goal. If you haven't accomplished your goal, we're going to have to move on and do some of these other pieces. Have you followed your outline? After you've read it, did you follow your outline? And did you accomplish the original goal of the piece? Have a critical eye. Did you did you write what you said you were going to write? If you realize that, wow, this doesn't belong, you have to modify your work. Modify it. You can, a lot of times, like Michelle said, she brought up a good point. Some work you see, this has nothing to do with my goal. You have to delete it or cut it out. That doesn't mean you have to erase your work, but you can put maybe that piece in your fodder file, and maybe you're going to be doing a second piece, or you never know. The second thing is you may have to rewrite some stuff. Okay, you will have to rewrite some stuff. And it may hurt because you remember all that time you spent struggling over this. But then when you read it, you're like, that is not right. It just doesn't go. You'll have to rewrite it. And you'll be like, ooh.
You have to be more objective when you revise.
Yeah.
You have to.
You're moving. I love how you drew that. You're moving from the heart to the head. You're moving. You're moving. So, and then the third thing is you may have to reorganize some things. If for some reason you look at your goal, your outline, and you think, this doesn't belong down here. I really should put this up here. It makes more sense. So you just reorganize it to make better sense. Print it out again, read it again, and just go through that process. I'm not going to go there. Not yet. Read it yourself. Read it yourself. Okay. If you're okay, we'll just keep going. Just y'all got to give me a flag because we'll need to take something about 10 or 15 after. So after you've revised it and you feel good about it, you're thinking, I feel really good about this. Then comes the editing part. So the last stage is editing. There are 2 parts of editing. The first part is proofreading. Proofreading is the mechanics. It focuses on correcting spelling, grammar, syntax. Syntax, just FYI, I had a funny cartoon, and I showed some of my people, and they didn't think it was funny. They didn't even get it. They said, "What is syntax?" Syntax is the rules of a language that govern how it's structured. It's I before E except after C. You know, it's that kind of stuff.
You don't have to use them anymore, you can just.
It was so funny. I'll just tell it to you. There was a lady that was standing in front of her audience, and she said, "I propose that we put into effect a tax on every person who destroys the English language. We're going to call it a sin tax." That was funny. I'm like, syntax. It was hilarious. But anyway, so there you go. I'll tell them that was funny.
So that we enjoy your.
I'll tell them. So spelling, grammar, syntax, punctuation, formatting, the basics, looking over it. And normally this particular piece happens at the end of editing. I mentioned that first. The second part is editing. Now, editing takes a deeper look at how the information and ideas are presented. So, making sure that your goal and your conclusion, your beginning and your end, it all flows. It's looking at the flow of the piece.
Clarity.
Yeah, is it clear? Have you accomplished your goal with all of these pieces of your work? While editing includes all the steps in proofreading, the focus is on making changes that make the article easier to understand, better organized, and more suitable for the audience. Because editing is an essential part of formulating, this is a research argument, it occurs multiple times. Editing is not one and done. So my encouragement for you, there's a couple pieces, and Michelle, we're going to share some stuff in just a little bit. Don't be afraid of being edited. Because you have to have somebody you trust. Because this, whatever it is, this is your heart. You remember, you were writing from the heart. This is your heart. Editing is not heart, unless you got an editor that fully agrees with you, that's fully in there with you, that understands that's part of their goal too. So whenever it goes from the heart to the head, you have got, I'm not going to say tough skin, but you have got, don't be afraid of the red pen because it's for you, it's for your benefit. It's to make sure that everything your heart is clear enough that somebody else is going to feel it right there with you. Really. So editing is a process. The grammar, the mechanics, we'll do a little bit of that, but y'all have been down that road. And you can look it on the internet, good grief. The grammar, when I say grammar mechanics, capitalization, you know about capitalization, punctuation, the usage of words, making sure you have agreement, noun, verb, you have agreement. And your spelling. That's what the mechanics are. A piece of information I want to share with you. Always edit and proofread yourself first. This is a horribly written sentence, I know that, but I was trying. Make sure you read yourself, your work, not from a heart point of view, like you did in the other drafting or revising. This is from a mechanical point of view, from your head. Proofread it with a different eye, not for the message, but for making sure it's correct grammatically and all that.
And it's easier to do if you walk away for a while. And by a while, I mean like at least a week, if not longer. Because if you, like, I think I walked away from, I've been away from Holy Mess for a while, but initially when I did the, 8th round of whatever, it had probably been at least 3 months. And I rewrote, most of the first chapter. So, it gives you, you're not as, I think when you initially write and it's so fresh and out of your heart, it's like, this is my baby, and I love my baby. And I don't, when your kids are small and you don't want to discipline them and correct them when they act bad because you love them and they're so cute. But then as they get older, it's not cute anymore. So the longer you're away from it, you're able to disconnect a little bit more from the heart. You still love it. It's still but you can look at it from a different set of eyes.
Right. So don't be afraid to edit yourself first, proofread yourself first. Then the last one is always ask a trusted friend/editor to read for clarity and mechanics. Be willing to take their critiques and their criticism, which will be constructive because they love you, in a Christ-like manner. The way you respond to editing. It's hard being edited. Y'all know that. Anybody that's had that, you know it's hard. But if you know and they know that we're doing it for the same purpose, the same goal, the Lord will help you with that. He'll help you with that. So ask somebody that you trust to edit. I'm burning up.
It's hard.
So you want to do the fan? Would that bother you guys?
I think too, it comes with reminding yourself that you are human and you are not perfect, and there's nothing that you will ever write, even after you've proofed it yourself and edited yourself, that will be perfect and without edit. It will never happen because no one is that perfect. It will never happen.
I wanted to ask Michelle to bring. This is not. I mean. Everybody has a different goal in here, but I want you to show you that I believe personally that each of you, God's given you something and He wants you to go with it. There's a book in everybody. There's a cartoon about that too. It's an X-ray and there's a book in you, but how are you going to get it out kind of thing. So I believe that you may or may not see that for yourself. I see it, that y'all could definitely write books that would help people. But anyway, so Michelle brought different things that we've edited. She's amazing to keep all her edits. This was, when was that? 2016 maybe? Christmas Through Her Eyes.
It's redeemed. It's
Right, okay.
Yeah, it just had a title change.
So, this one, Michelle, I'll just let you tell me about that. Where do you think, whichever one you want.
I guess we can hand me all of them. I mean, this was Advent. This is the second Advent we did. This one is the first Advent we did. But there's sets of, like, you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of edits in this from just one book. I don't know what happened to the rest of Seeking Him. But, like, when you were walking through the edit, we changed the title. It was just a Psalm 119 study. We changed the title 3 times. Because titles they're important. They communicate the message. Like this, we changed the title of this. And this has, I don't even know how many edits this has. But I've got my outline. This is the outline that I wrote for Redeemed. We walked through all of these edits. This is part of Holy Mess edits. This is just from other people. This is not my own edits. All of this is nothing that I edited myself. I have all of that too, but this is just what she and I have done. This is a good example. This is Displaying Him. This is a book that's not even been finished. This is from 2016. It's still sitting on my bookcase. We walked through 5 rounds of edits before we realized that it wasn't right. It needed to be different. It needed to be broken into 2 books rather than 1. But this is notes. This is edits. This is things that I wrote myself, edits that I did myself, edits that she did. I think one of the hardest parts for me initially when we did Craving More, I don't think I ever let anyone read, or take a pen to my work since I was in high school. And the first round of edits I got back on Craving More, I sat on the floor and cried. Because I thought, am I really that bad of a writer that she had to make this many notes? Are my words that bad? Is this really what I'm supposed to do if this is what she's doing to my work? I wasn't mad at her. Totally. But I also learned quickly that she had my best interest in mind. And when I went to She Speaks the first time, I don't know who shared it, I don't know, I have it somewhere and I meant to bring it and give it to all of you, but it was a game-changing quote for me. And I think it was a Lisa TerKeurst quote, but she said, the tweaking of us in private is the saving of us in public. And
That's good.
I've gone back through and read things that were initial first drafts that I wrote and thought, I am really glad somebody made me fix that. And so it's really for our benefit. Editing is for our benefit. And that's why I say nothing that we ever write will come out flawless and perfect. Of course, it won't happen because that's not who we are. We're going to make mistakes. It will happen. And I think writing, honestly, is one of the most humbling things that you can do. Like, God will keep you humble all the time by the editing process, just from these. Like, this doesn't include craving more. There's more to seeking Him. I just don't know where it's at. But I keep these. I keep these as a reminder that it's a process, that it takes time. Like, you know, you've heard me talk about Holy Mess. I've taught it. This is just a little part. I mean, I have 2 binders, probably triple this size, filled with things from Holy Mess. It's taken, 3 years from idea to now reaching a point where I can really start finishing. 3 years. So we have to be reminded, essays are shorter, they don't take as long. It's a shorter process of time where you can get it done in a couple of weeks. But when you're looking at a project or something along the lines of Craving More or a larger book, it's going to take time. I'm the most impatient person on the planet. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. I am the most impatient person when I want something. When God's put a dream in my heart, I want it yesterday. I want to see it happen. I want it done. But no, it takes a lot for people to understand the process from start to finish, because it's a very lonely line of work. It's very people don't write, then they don't understand the process, the hours. It takes a long time. But this is just some of it. But this is just for you to see that it's a process. It's going to take time. But you need someone who understands your heart, who is going to correct you in a loving way, but who is also going to be able to help you fine-tune and communicate the message that you have. And that will be different for everyone. It will be different for everyone. That person will be different for everyone. There was, I don't remember when it was, but there was another person at She Speaks that says it takes a team to create a finished product. It takes a group of people to make it happen, because there's things that I can't do. I can write the words, but I can't do what she does. I can't fine tune all the syntax and the grammar. I'm not strong in that. I can design a book cover, but some people don't have that ability. It takes different facets to make something happen, and so you have to be willing and open to let other people help you, to let other people come alongside of you and help you make it the best that it can possibly be. Like, I think we like to do things ourselves. Like, well, I'm going to do it all by myself. I can do this. I got this. I can handle this. But I've learned there's a reason why you have other people in your corner, and it's not just you. So editing is a process, and yes, it will hurt. Like, there's no like tiptoeing around that. Like, there's no tiptoeing around that. It's a good thing Julie's not in my house on certain occasions, because she's cut parts out of the books that I have loved, and I'm mad about it.
Yeah.
I am mad about it. I'm like, I love that sentence. Why don't you like my sentence? I love that. So I think you also have to separate yourself from there's a reason. There's a reason that she didn't like my sentence, and it's because she loves me. And so you have to remember, it does hurt. It doesn't feel good, especially if you're very sensitive, because I'm very sensitive. Very, very, very sensitive. And you have to have thick skin, but I think that quote was a changer for me, because knowing that she's reading my work means that she loves me enough and cares about me enough to make sure that the words that I'm putting out into the world are good and they're correct and they're not wrong or out of place. So you have to find somebody in your corner. You have to have somebody in your corner that can do that for you. Multiple times. Not just once.
Well, we're gonna take a break right here, and then, we'll just be back at, whenever y'all get back in here, just 5 minutes.